You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
A kiss, as defined by Dan Webster, is something pleasing, a caress, a gentle touch. But there's another kiss that isn't in Webster's.
Hey world, we're Kiss!
Some critics say they don't make music, they just make noise.
Yeah, Kiss sucks!
Kiss implies the extreme in the theatrics on stage, utilizing fire and smoke and bizarre costumes, and the ever-consistent, constant concealment of their true identities.
Speaking of which, Kiss is going to have its own comic book soon.
Take Kiss with you. It's fun. Show your friends and be the first. Now.
Oh my God, no time to turn!
And welcome once again to No Time to Turn, a Kiss Nerd podcast.
Nerds.
Joining me as always is Cap and Alex from the Something Good Network.
Yo, yo. What's going on?
If you haven't checked out all the good stuff at the Something Good Network, it's something good for you to check out.
Hey. I like that. There you go. I like that.
Yeah, you got to pay me money. Shilling for you guys.
I'll find a couple quarters here for you, Boogie, out here.
Yeah. Well, if there's one thing I've learned while studying Kiss is you always got to go for the money.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
No.
Nothing's ever for free.
We concluded the last show, which was the Sonic Boom album and tour and that whole kind of era, I guess.
Yeah.
Now we're going we're literally going era to era now. They're not even doing tour cycles like normal.
I mean, unlike previous years, they're kind of staying on the road at this point, doing different tours, because they after they finish up the Sonic Boom tour, they jump on the Hottest Show on Earth tour.
We covered that, right?
Did we cover Hottest Show on Earth? I don't think so.
I don't forget what they called it, but I mean, yeah, I thought that was...
Yeah, there was a follow-up tour to the Sonic Boom tour.
No, I think...
Who was the opener? Or was there an opener?
Let me find
this
that
stuff,
out real
we
quick.
just did a show on this and we've already forgotten.
I know.
That shows how insignificant.
And I lived through this.
Yeah,
Yeah, so did
they're
I.
just out there. The point is they're just out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just out there.
But what I was going to say is, unlike previous years, they're kind of staying on the road at this point, though.
But they're not doing like full tours. It's like we did a lot of going through the mid 2000s. They were doing a lot of the like
Package tours.
Well, they were doing
State
those
fair shows.
and then they were before that though. They were just doing like 6 dates in the United States or whatever, you know. But you know, like I said, we're jumping era to era. This last tour ends on July 28th at the Turning Stone Resort Casino. Sorry, I can't. You know, things are going to turn around in a big way, though. This is, and so I say this to a point. But talking about end of an era, on June 28th, 2010, Bill Aucoin succumbed to cancer at the age of 66, and I don't think we would be remiss not to stop and note the life and importance of Bill Aucoin here for a moment.
How impactful that is.
Because without Bill Aucoin, there is no Kiss.
I watched a documentary the other night about Mastodon, and this latest record they did was about their manager who had been with them since day one, and how that bled into a lot of the themes on their record. So that kind of like that relationship with the guy that got you to where you are is huge.
Yeah, and I felt like they kind of, I wouldn't say downplayed him after he was gone, but you know, I think they like to sell the idea that everything was their idea. They created it all, you know. It was all, you know, it's just, you know, them, which I makes sense to a degree, and I'm sure that he encouraged that to a point as they were developing.
But at the same time, as we, you know, when we were doing those really deep, you know, dives and kind of peeling back the pages on those earlier episodes, you know, we find out that Bill had that really good eye for television. He was in television. He knew what was going to capture people's attention. So he saw that Kiss was going to grab attention, and exactly what you said, expand on that stuff. And then him with Sean Delaney were helping choreograph stuff. So, you know, it's not like Gene and Paul said, hey, let's do our, you know, shoulder sway guitar up moment here. No, that was a Sean Delaney moment, spearheaded by Bill Aucoin, because he's like, you need something that's going to showcase
visually striking,
how grand
you're a visually
you are.
striking band. You need to, well, and just he was able to connect the dots and push things. You know, the stuff he did how important he was even with their relationship with Casablanca. And the fact that he bankrolled famously those first 2 years on his American Express card.
Yeah.
Now, if there's one holy grail item, and I'm sure he's cut it up, but it just would it not be cool to have the American Express card?
My God. That is one of those ones. It's like that and the original contract.
And that there's I'm sure he cut it up, and those slivers of plastic are sitting in a landfill somewhere in the New Jersey. Who knows? But that would be kind of a
that
cool thing.
really would be.
But
I didn't ever think about that.
And we've asked before, who do you think was the better manager for Kiss in the long run? Now they both have years behind them. Was it Bill Aucoin or was it Doc McGee? And I mean,
do we want to answer that on our final episode?
We can,
because we've kind of teased that as the ongoing question throughout this series, but we've yet to answer it. So maybe that needs to be the wrap up answer.
Well, it's something to think about.
So
but
I already kind of have an answer too. So
I do a little bit too, but I want to formulate it. Maybe actually write it out.
I don't think there is a wrong answer.
There isn't, and that's kind of what I want to figure out. Yeah,
both are very obviously very important and vital figures in the band's history. I think it's, and I'm sure I guess if they were touring, they would have been unable to attend Aucoin's funeral. I don't know. To me, and this is just personal. I'm not taking any kind of umbrage with the band for not doing this, but I'm saying me personally, I probably would have canceled dates and been there. I would have felt compelled to pay my respects personally. And I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't do it, but I understand. I don't think that it was a cold-hearted or anything like that.
I don't think it's any sort of calculated move,
right,
or any sort of extra thought went into it other than, hey Doc, if we cancel the show, how much do we owe?
I don't think it's even that. I think that they could have. I don't think that was a decision-making thing in there.
I think it honestly was a money thing. That's the main reason those kind of situations even happen.
Did they at least do a tribute during the show?
I don't know. I did. I just. I
feel
kind of
like
overlooked this while we were doing the last show. So
don't hold me to it. One, I feel like they definitely made mention of it on their website. Gene and Paul both kind of wrote a co-written paragraph or or two
so it was
to
acknowledged.
Bill. That, and I honestly feel like Paul mentioned it on stage in some way, shape, or form, for the shows surrounding it. I feel like there's, this, and this set goes out to our original manager, Bill Aucoin, mentioning it in some way, shape, or form.
Well,
but I could be wrong. That could have just been a weird fever dream.
That's curious, though, because of how big he was, and that he was the guy again.
The guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you even watched that History documentary that A&E did recently when they got that rehearsal stuff of them, unmasked, doing the rehearsals. You just see Bill right there in his suit, walking around. He was there. He was the fifth member, which is why he had the cut in with the money and all that we visited on the earlier episodes.
Well,
interesting.
In April of 2011, they re-enter a studio. I guess it's the same. You know what? I wrote it down. I've lost it.
I think it's the
same studio
one.
they did Sonic Boom in.
Greg Collins is still there.
Greg Collins is still with them. Paul is producing. Greg Collins is engineering. I don't know if he gets. I don't think he even gets a co-producer credit on this, does he?
No, yeah, you're right. He only gets a recording and mixing credit.
This was the one, because I was listening to interviews just talking about producers. This is the one where Gene was strongly touting this record was fully produced by Paul Stanley. Paul Stanley produced this record.
Okay.
Yeah, I listened to about 4 or 5 different interviews of this time period when they were hitting the circuit, and he was pushing that hard.
Well, Paul, of course, in his typical hyperbolic fashion, is saying Sonic Boom, this album will blow Sonic Boom out of the water. Now, admittedly,
it's much easier listen.
That's like you could throw a sand pebble into a bathtub and tip over the the toy boat that's in there. So yeah, this isn't going to be.
Well, I was thinking blowing something out of the water. How deep is the water? Is it a tiny little drop of water on the floor?
Well, yeah. Sonic Boom has to be. Upon reflection, might be their absolute worst album.
I thought about this. Another thing to do on the last episode. What's our worst Kiss album? What's our least favorite?
I think that also needs to be answered in a few episodes.
It's neck and neck with Hot in the Shade for sure.
I think Sonic Boom is in my bottom 5. I don't think it's necessarily the worst though, because there's still moments in Sonic Boom I enjoy. There's certain records where there's so few moments I can find any enjoyment out of. So by musical default, Sonic Boom ranks a little higher.
It's up there though with the worst.
Oh, absolutely.
Or down there.
Yeah.
Well, it is. This album, at this point, is I think still yet untitled, and it is projected for a fall 2011 release, but we will not see it materialize until the fall of 2012. However, in the fall of 2011, on October 13th, the band launched the inaugural Kiss Cruise.
And they're still going, and one of us here at the table has been on a Kiss cruise.
Yeah, we go back. There's a episode that we talk about that, but I can't remember which episode. I should have figured
that was
that
on
out.
Something Good for You.
That's right. We did a special episode. That's correct. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that information. I'll put that information in the description. I'm not going to look that up right now. That's hard to look up.
Well, Alex kind of goes into depth of what it's like to be on a Kiss cruise.
Yes, the good, bad, and the ugly.
And it's interesting that, of course, Kiss had to hop on the trend because that was the era of when, like, band-themed cruises, like the 80s rock cruises,
they had already
were really
been
starting to
done
be
a couple of times, so they weren't really breaking ground with this.
I will say, objectively, though, out of all the bands to do it, look at it strictly from an aesthetic and money standpoint.
This seems to have the highest profile.
Kiss has done it the best, honestly.
Probably, yeah.
Because, like, I've seen some of the other ones, like, a couple years ago, there was, like, a country outlaw cruise.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, I'm like, that seems really odd. Like, that seems like
a juxtaposition. Outlaw cruise. I mean,
it's such an odd combo. But then you look at something like a Kiss cruise, a band that's so visual and party centric. It's like, well, of course they would have a big boat.
And blah blah blah. Yeah.
So for some reason, the Kiss cruise was probably the first time, like, the mass as a whole kind of turned their nose up at Kiss, and I just kind of went, if it wasn't so expensive, that is kind of cool.
I mean, a lot of bands have done that, though.
Yeah.
There was my favorite was the Motorhead one. It was just called Motorboat.
I didn't even see. I wasn't.
That was a thing.
I wasn't even aware that happened.
Was that had to have been I feel like that was a thing.
It was. That's why I said it.
Okay, I was sitting there going, I forgot about that.
I have completely dropped the ball here. I meant to go back and look at who the other acts were that shared the cruise, because they always have special guests.
It's different acts every year.
It's always like Skid Row and a lot of hair bands.
A lot of the which
they're definitely catering to that. Well, think about it.
I know that's their audience, I guess. Which
well,
is
the people
weird to
that
me.
can afford those tickets, are between they're in their early 40s to late 60s, and that was right in that time period where. I mean, again, you grew up in the 80s with that stuff. If you had liked it, you would have nostalgia for that in your teenage years, which is when a lot of people from this era found Kiss was in their mid to late teenage years. So if that were the case, you'd be eating up the fact that, Skid Row and stuff, but then you're just a dude with a lot better taste. And when now that was happening, you're just like, no, I want Iggy and the Stooges.
Well, yeah, but
so there's also just a taste
I don't like
difference.
that kind of music, and I got negative interest in never going.
I don't either. I don't either have a taste for that music. But looking at the audience that's there, I understand why they booked those bands.
You know who would have crushed at cruises? Rush. Because
the
Rush fan base would have.
Oh my god! Oh yes, that would have.
You know what they would have called that?
What?
The Snooze Cruise.
Hey now.
Okay.
I would have been on one of those cruises probably.
On March 20th, the band announced a 51-date co-headlining tour with Motley Crue with the really excellent, clever name of
The Tour.
The Tour.
God damn it. They're still doing that shit. The Motley Crue.
I don't know.
They're still doing like the world tour, the stadium tour.
People are paying to see it. The group Kiss makes an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel to promote the tour and do I guess they did a small set of songs.
Yeah.
That's another one I meant to write down. I saw that and I got distracted, I guess. I'm really terrible at keeping my notes here lately.
Man, at this point, like this, in real time, I was completely checked out of like Kiss and Motley Crue.
I missed this completely.
Now, I actually, this was one of the few things I actually remember watching, and I was like looking forward to this coming out. And the reason being, again, Sonic Boom was not that great. By this point, though, I kind of had a little bit of hope because it felt like they were kind of like, oh shit, they're going to do it again? Like, so something about the idea of them doing it again maybe kind of raised an eyebrow going, well, this, okay, well, if they weren't just one and done in this, if they're doing it again, they have my interest then.
What, touring or
the record?
Well, there's no record at this point.
But they're starting to do
this Motley Crue tour is still technically in support of Sonic Boom. They have not yet finished the next record. They won't come out until after this tour.
So I'm thinking, I started hearing about this during a certain talk show that we'll probably get to.
Which?
It was David Letterman.
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah. I had that, and I forgot to write that down. I remember. Too. God, I've really just fucked up this show.
No, I remember what that happened in real time too, because it was like they started playing.
Were they actually on Letterman?
Yeah,
because I remember seeing when that happened. They did an additional set that they just put on like YouTube or something.
Yeah, I think it was. Like 6 songs might have been something. Just the YouTube page because the Foo Fighters did that too.
But did they play on Letterman too?
I don't know. I was watching nothing but YouTube and streaming.
Yeah,
well, Cap, you looked that one up. I'm getting the Kimmel one looked up because I feel like I need to correct Russ here for a second because I saw them on this tour. And they were promoting Monster.
They were playing a song from the album, but the album doesn't come out until October 9th, 2012.
Yeah, but they were still promoting it though.
There's no album to promote. I mean, it's not released.
The Hell or Hallelujah
they're
song. They're
playing the song, but the album's not out yet.
But they're using the new costumes as well.
Right.
So that's at least what made me think about it. And that's why I was kind of sitting here going, I'm like, I'm staying silent. I'm not going to jump ahead, but I want to check my notes real quick.
All this stuff gets really confusing because they've changed their costumes. It looks like they're starting up a cycle for something. And like I said, the album was originally slated for release in the fall of 2011. For whatever reason, it keeps getting delayed. I don't know that that's on their part. I think it might be on the part of them probably flipping record labels again. I couldn't find information on that, but it's on a different label. Whereas Sonic Boom, I think we said was on Road Racer. This will be on Roadrunner.
This is under the Kiss Records label.
Yeah, but that's through Universal though.
Well, we can find out real quick because I actually have a vinyl copy of that record.
Oh boy, there we go.
I mean, it's not that important.
It's
while he's doing
though.
this, I'll mention that they were scheduled to play the UK date of the touring Sonosphere Festival in Europe, but that date, which was July 6th, was canceled by the festival organizers due to some sort of logistical reasons or issues or whatever, blah, blah, blah. July 31st. Oh, well, let's go ahead and finish this here.
Well, actually, I'm glad
I want to come back. Let's come back to that when we get to the actual album.
Okay, because this the label actually ties into something else we'll talk about later.
Okay.
But before we get to that, I want to stop and we're going to talk a little bit about something that was pretty exciting for the old school diehard fans. July 31st, 2012, Destroyer Resurrected is released.
Okay, well, that's the reason why I wanted to bring it up. So Monster was released under Universal.
Right.
Kiss is now recently signed to Universal, so now they have the rights to the back catalog.
Right.
And they give a shit. And now that's why stuff is getting released. I've learned some stuff.
Was Universal behind the Destroyer Resurrected?
Yes.
Okay.
So I did find out that around this time, management shifted. Like, this is just found this out through other conversations
management
about other
with who?
Within Universal.
Okay, not Kiss.
Correct. Management within Universal had shifted at this point. And when people got shifted, Kiss fan all of a sudden was in charge and was just like, what can we do? So now you're going to see why, starting with this release, a lot more special editions and box sets and stuff like that kind of start floating its way out.
There's no box sets.
Well, like the icons things and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about that stuff.
Yeah, so there is so at this point, that's when you start seeing a lot more of the Kiss music merchandise hitting the shelves. It may be a slow trickle right now, but you'll soon learn that through the success of it, we get a whole lot more cool goodies nowadays.
That continues to happen too. I mean, like there's a new stereo mix of Revolver that just came out today. As we're recording this, it's been fun to listen to, and that's kind of been a fun thing for people to actually go in and care too,
right,
with these re-releases.
So Russ, what was your reaction when you heard they were going to re-release Destroyer and call it Destroyer Resurrected?
Oh, I was always curious about that because we talked about this before in the past, like when Sean Delaney went back to do the remixes for Double Platinum and how Bob Ezrin recorded all of this stuff, like it's all on the track. He puts echo on it, it's there, you can't get rid of it. It's not, there's no, these are all on the master tracks, all the special effects, all the wizardry, all the Bob Ezrinisms are in the tracks recorded there from the get-go.
Right.
They're not added after the fact, so you can't mix it out. You can't. So I was just curious how that would be addressed. Like, what could they do? And now with the advent of digital technology, I guess there were certain things they might have been able to do or whatever. And this is done by Bob Ezrin himself. He remixed it himself with little or actually no active involvement from the band.
No. And what was actually funny, though, when we were talking about doing this part of the episode, I was listening, trying to see if I found any band interviews. Band didn't talk about it at all.
They did nothing to promote it.
But Eddie Trunk was having an interview with Peter Criss at the time.
He didn't like it.
Well, Peter didn't understand it fully. He thought, he never said this, but I could read between the lines, he thought that they Black Sabbathed him, or Ozzy soloed him.
Sharon Osbourne him.
Yeah, yeah, they thought, he was thinking they redid his drums. And Eddie was sitting here going like, no, Peter, no. They actually made your drums like thicker. They took away some of the stuff, it's like, and they added things to Beth, like they made Beth bigger, if anything, they made you shine more on the record. He was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, like actually just name me a song. I've got a copy of it here on CD. Name me a song. We'll play it on the next break. He's like, I want to hear God of Thunder. And it clips back and he's just like, yeah, it's okay. Like he was like totally like taken aback. Like at first he was hardcore. He's just like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. And he's like, it was done by Bob Ezrin though. He's like, Bobby did it? He's like, yeah.
Is it sounds more like a remaster work.
It does, because like I said, there wasn't, in the end, that was my point, there wasn't a lot of radical change on it.
So here I am as the Kiss nerd.
Right,
let me provide you some fun little
changes.
tidbits. Yes.
I know.
In fact, there's changes that weren't supposed to happen too. So the notorious one that everyone immediately picked up on was Detroit Rock City. Mm-hmm. They changed the lyric.
Yeah.
Because it was it's supposed to be moving fast down 95.
Right.
That's what the lyric is supposed to be. They did the little voice thing and made Paul say down, because if you listen to the record, he says doing 95. Yeah. Moving fast, doing 95.
Right.
And even Paul talked about it. He's like, yeah, that was a vocal slip, but it was still the best sounding take, so we kept it. So they fixed that. The car crash has been altered. There's new sound effects during the car crash. All of Peter's drums have had the echo removed by Bob Ezrin found drum warm-up samples that didn't have the echo on it. where he found the samples of the drums being tested.
He just pasted all those in.
He sampled a whole bunch of those that didn't have the effects on them.
This is when
and
you get
placed
into like
them,
mastering nerd
yeah,
shit.
and that's what I said. That's what I'm here for. And then through a computer program, it syncs it up, masters it, replaces the drums. You can requantize, remix it through XYZ, so you've actually got the Guaper hits and everything else.
Cheap Trick did a live album like that recently, where like all the drum hits are sampled, and it kind of pissed me off.
And then after that, you do have the new solo in Sweet Pain.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, they also put back during the tail end of the guitar solo in Detroit Rock City, You Gotta Lose Your Mind in Detroit Rock City, which is on the
double platinum, I think.
And when I read about this, what I came to understand was that was originally there, and they intended for it to be there, and they took it off at the last hour for the album.
Very last second.
Which was, to me, the correct decision, but he's put it back here because I hate when they do that. It just, I don't know why, but it distracts me from that. It's like one of the coolest parts of the solo. But the lead on Sweet Pain.
Yeah. Now, this bugs me a little bit because you can clearly tell it's a placeholder.
Yeah, I don't think that this was the solo he intended to do. I think this was a work in progress.
This was like Ace going, I'm going to put something here.
I'm going to fuck around with some ideas here, and it's probably going to be in this kind of vein, but this isn't, that wasn't going to be the finished take.
It was a bullshit solo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kinda. And to say that that's the original solo is kind of
all right,
dumb, which also goes to show, which then opens up, it's like, well, okay, he was present and accounted for when they said he wasn't, and I wonder that if some of this was just time constraints, like it's like, okay, I can get this guy in and he can do it tonight and be done, because Ace is taking fucking forever. And maybe not, but it's hard to say.
Two more things that were edited and changed on this. The second most noticeable one is in Beth. The outtake acoustic guitar that was originally in the mix is now brought back. Now
that's Dick Wagner.
Yep.
Now, when I first heard this, though, I was doing the big finger waving, calling shenanigans thing. I'm like, no. They recorded new acoustic guitar for this. I've never heard about them having an acoustic on this song before. This is bullshit. They're fucking around with the original songs now. I was cool with the earlier stuff because it's just mixed back in. This is them adding new shit. But then I heard enough people talking about it later on. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that really did happen.
I remember there was a interview I read with Dick Wagner where he knew he had done it, but was completely unaware that it wasn't on the finished album. Like,
still got his rate and shit, but...
And then the final change on the record, and I don't know if it's like this on Spotify anymore. Mainly, I'm pulling all of this from memory because I was obsessed with this record when it first came out, especially because of the new mix and the way it sounded really good in headphones. And it really called to me. So I wanted to get the vinyl record as well. When I got the vinyl and I put on Flaming Youth, here's some fun guitar mouth work. I'm not going to be as eccentric with it, but the intro. Bum, ba-da-lum, bum, ba-da-lum, bum, 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 bum. That exact kind of timing. On the record, without any skips, it's just how it was pressed in. It does dun 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 bum ba bum bum. All right, it completely skips over half of the bar, but it sounds like it's fluid. And a bunch of people started contacting Universal and was just like, "This is messed up. This is messed up." They listened back to it. iTunes had a messed up version. Whoever mastered the digital copy mastered it incorrectly, and there was a skip at the beginning of it, a digital skip in the actual music file.
Did they correct it?
It did eventually get corrected, and the only reason people
Is
knew...
it corrected on the vinyl? Is there two versions
There's
of the vinyl?
two versions of the vinyl, and guess who has both versions?
Well, yeah. Hey, you know what? There's
awesome.
Hey,
when we
man.
say Kiss Nerd Podcast, what we mean is Alex.
Hey, man, I was excited for this because anytime they've released some old material...
I bought this when it came out on vinyl, yeah.
I wonder which version you have.
Probably the original one because I bought it like when it came out.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, if you listen to it, listen to the beginning of Flaming Youth. There's a digital skip. It's not your vinyl. It's an actual skip from the master recording.
Well, I think that the fact we're sitting here talking about this record at this point in the game is kind of stands as a stark contrast in effort of what Sonic Boom was.
Now, also, before we move on, do you want to talk about the cover for Destroyer Resurrected?
No, you can mention it. I mean, it was the first attempt. I don't even think that was a finished.
Well, see, here's the problem with it.
We talked about this in the original episode, I believe.
Yes, so they made one pass at it, which had the Alive costumes,
Right.
and the city was a lot more desolate, and the record, Casablanca was like, yo, chill. And
But you can tell that's not even a finished painting compared to what was on the, you know what I mean?
So, yes, well, that's the problem, though. So, what they made was a mock-up,
Right.
but Destroyer Resurrected is a fully finished product. When you look at it, like, it's a fully painted photo. It's not the original photo.
You mean the painting?
Yeah, it's not the original painting.
Oh.
It's a redone new
Based
Ken
on
Kelly
that. Okay,
painting.
yeah, because I can see the other one in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He's about to go get that one too.
You don't do visuals on a podcast, dude.
He's doing it for him.
He's just like, look, I gotta pull it out.
He's not doing it for us.
I'm just, but to say in the difference between,
I'm gonna take a look at it though.
yeah, it's been a minute since I've pulled mine out. Yeah,
As I
anyone's
talk shit.
tuning in.
Someone's
If
gonna
you
have
tune
fun.
in, if you're tuning in, and you don't hear the beginning of this. They're like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah.
Jerry goes just pulling it out.
He's just
Russ is like, I
pulling it
hadn't
out.
pulled mine out in a minute.
Have you pulled yours out?
Barry's gonna have a fun
Alex
time
has
with
his
that.
pulled out. He's holding his hand. Oh, he's handing it to. Oh, it's so big.
It's 12 inches,
Touch it,
Russ.
Russ.
Okay,
Touch
so that's the yeah. Okay, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. I know.
So,
I know.
yeah,
I know exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah, so I do find it odd that they are kind of pushing, and even
Well-
the signature at the bottom says Ken Kelly 75.
Yeah.
They're trying to push this like it's the
I
original
wonder,
painting.
Well, I mean, I don't know
I mean, it sold. It did pretty well considering, right?
what the Destroyer Resurrected.
Yeah, as far as like
I'm
moving
not sure.
units
I
or
don't
whatever,
know.
right?
I don't know what it did. I didn't.
I
At
think
that
it
point,
did.
I think I was kind of like, I didn't care if it did well or not. I was only interested in my own, self gratification by having it. And again, going back to, like I'm saying, it was such a contrast to what they had going on in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to compare Destroyer to Sonic Boom is really an insult to what they had done with Destroyer.
They're still living in the present. Just saying, just
and
burying it.
if they themselves think they have done something that was on par with Destroyer, I mean, that says a lot about how lost they might be. You can't turn back time.
There it is.
Paul, even during the Monster press run, was not very kind to the songs on Sonic Boom. So I don't think the band was happy with the end result.
Well, they shouldn't have been, because it sucked.
There's just a lot of just crap songs, just because it's just we'll get into the quality of the record, but I think they actually gave a shit this time.
Well, the great thing about all of this is, in rock and roll, and in particular Kiss, these things remain as kind of a time capsule. And in that time capsule, everything remains perfect and pure. Everything that was ever, great or whatever you loved about that band, you can still tap into. It's still there. Regardless of what they're doing in the present, you still can go back in time and remain in that time and place for as long as you listen to that album. And that's what makes it so enjoyable. I think, that's the nostalgia end of it, which is a fair thing to say. A lot of people want to criticize their nostalgia. Okay, fine. That's great. You know what? I like a big, heavy dose of nostalgia.
Who
What I
doesn't?
don't like is what they're doing now. And I'd rather go back to that time and place and get lost there forever than to spend a day with the current Kiss. But
I'm gonna go hang with my Kiss.
unfortunately, that's not the point of this program, for there is no time to turn. Tour. They tour for the tour. And it begins on July 19th in Bristow, Virginia. It's a suburban area I guess it serves DC, Baltimore is where that's this arena or whatever they're playing. I'm sure it's a shed.
Right.
We say shed. I love like we're in the business. We could use the vernacular.
We're playing fucking sheds,
We're
bro.
playing the sheds, bruh. Bruh.
Opening for Godsmack.
No, well here now Kiss is headlining, are they not? This isn't an alternating thing. Kiss headlines every night.
Okay.
But they're actually playing shorter sets than Motley Crue. What I'll get to in a minute. This first show is a free event for veterans and their families. They play a second night in Bristow to officially kick off the tour. But their set is shortened every night somewhat to time constraints. And Paul plays this to his advantage by saying every night, the venue won't let us play longer because they got a curfew. And in some of these places, that's true. And
But it's also saving his voice.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, they're playing 80-minute sets instead of 90-minute sets. I don't think that makes a major difference, but it's a not so clever ruse they use to kind of conceal the fact they're playing shorter sets.
Well, at least they're being truthful with it. Not like when I saw Rob Zombie when I was initially seeing Alice Cooper, but stuck around just to see what Rob Zombie was about. He had the whole fake curfew stick.
I mean,
it depends.
The
curfew. The curfew. The thing about the curfew isn't. It's primarily because most of this is done through union work, and unions say, after a certain minute, they start charging, and it's a sizable sum. I mean, it's like anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a minute.
Oh no, that's absolutely true.
And they get fined, and
but
that's why
sometimes they just say fuck it and just eat it.
Madison Square Garden, which is a prestige gig, is not a money gig for anybody because the unions come in and they eat everything up.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Alex.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say that this was literally part of his stage show, though.
Oh, right. He's turned it into stagecraft.
Yeah,
they are definitely playing shorter sets
that.
this whole tour, and that's
I'm talking
his
about
part
Rob
of his
Zombie.
rap. Oh, I'm talking about Kiss.
No, I'm talking about Rob Zombie had a guy come up on stage and hand him a piece of paper saying that he was going over curfew. My point being, at least Kiss is being truthful. Rob's using it as a shtick.
They're not using. I mean, it's still part of the shtick for Kiss, though, and they're using that because it makes it look like we want to keep playing.
Though.
It's
Rob
a lie.
Didn't even get one.
Paul's lying too. It's still that's my point. It's the same thing. It diverts the blame away from the band and puts it on the part of the venue. It's a smart thing to do, even though the band knows full and good and goddamn well before they even start they're not going to be able to play. So there's no full set really to be had.
Kid Rock can eat it, but Kiss can't.
No, I'm just saying this is just I think it's also noteworthy though to keep it going here. They play nothing from Sonic Boom on this tour.
Really? I mean, I did find myself
but
looking.
They are playing
Monsters In.
But they are playing. They're playing Hell or Hallelujah, a new song from the forthcoming album, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because, I mean, like I said, if there was one decent song on Sonic Boom, it was the Modern Day Delilah song, which they were playing live.
And they were putting on the radio, too.
Were they?
That was the single. Well, at least I would see.
I haven't listened to radio since,
it was on classic rock radio, and it was
Since the turn of the century, I've not listened to radio.
Hallelujah got some radio play too, because I remember I was working in a kitchen at one point, and they were doing a 7 o'clock debut on a radio station like the night before it got officially released on like iTunes and Spotify and stuff. And I remember intentionally needing to take a shit right around that time period.
Well, thanks for that little. There's some minutia right there. Alex had to have a bowel.
Well, no, it was a fake one, so I could run to the bathroom and put in my headphones and listen to the single. You cut me off, so like I cut that turd off.
So, well, I think. I wasn't paying very close attention to this when it was happening. I think, though, that makes sense because everything, if like Universal, everything snakes down now. There's only like a few corporate entities and they own everything.
There's like 3 of them.
Like Live Nation, I think might be part of that Universal umbrella. Look that up and see. Because if that, the way that all works is it works now in like a Tumblr because they bought up, they own the labels. They own the management companies.
They own the touring companies.
They own the venues. They own the radio stations. They own it all. So everything can be choreographed and tailored to each individual market for maximum,
exposure.
But, and it doesn't seem to work to a grand degree, but...
So Live Nation is owned by Liberty Media.
Well, yeah, but who owns Liberty Media?
I think Warner's.
Oh, well, there you go. I don't know. Whoever,
Let me see. I can't confirm that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying as an example. It all works like in this
snakes
kind of
spider
legs.
This is
the from the corporate end. This is a very positive thing. From the the punter end, it's very negative because it chokes out and strangles a lot of.
Monopolizes
things and chokes out stuff that otherwise might exist that you will never get exposure to because it's just completely choked out of the picture. That's why you have to go and dig for this stuff. I mean, you work for that guy Tuck Smith.
Yeah,
I'm sure he has to contend with that shit.
Oh, absolutely. And he's even part of one of the subsidies of the major labels.
Yeah,
and he still has to fight and
30 years ago, it would have been a different story. July 31st in Pelham, Alabama. Where's Pelham, Alabama?
Well, okay, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, what?
Wait, you said July 31st?
Yeah.
Well, first, July 25th, they come to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And which one Alex Stiff saw.
Oh, I did not know that. You went to that tour?
Yes, I went to that show.
Oh, well, do you have memories then?
Oh, I have vivid memories of this show. I remember only wanting to pay for lawn seats. Because at this point, I was already even though I was excited that a new record was coming out, I was jaded because I knew what Paul's vocal was like at this point. Plus,
it was already bad then.
It was shredded by the Sonic Boom tour.
Okay.
Because even trying to sing modern day Delilah, I mean, we listened to the record. It's kind of fading on the record too. So the tour was really bad.
We'll come back to that too.
Yeah. So I knew his voice was already going to be gone. I really didn't want to see Motley Crue that much. So I was like, no, I'm dropping $20 on lawn seats. I show up that afternoon and they were doing like the $10 upgrades. And so I was able to get like halfway decent seats for like $33 after like taxes and fees and stuff, and I had like actual seats.
Do you know what that means?
It was not selling well.
It wasn't selling. This was a hard sell.
Papered, right?
Yeah,
and
papered meaning free tickets were given out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and you could definitely tell you could tell who the fans were and who kind of maybe got those free tickets. A lot of those kind of went up front, but no, it was. By the time Motley was midway through their set, there was a decent amount of people there. It just took a while it felt like there was a lot of impulse buying and a lot of, hey, did you know Kiss and Motley Crue are here tonight? Oh, really? Yeah, we'll go after work. Because those amphitheater shows always start very early. So, of course, I tune out halfway through Motley's set, and I remember the guy standing beside me. He was wearing a Kiss shirt, and I was kind of look over at him. He's scrolling his phone. I get on my phone. I'm kind of scrolling. He looks over at me. He goes, "They need to hurry up, don't they?"
I got shit to do.
And I was like,
we ain't got time for this.
Yeah, this isn't great.
I want to get to that. I'm trying to save that and bookmark that if you can, because I want to come back to that whole kind of attitude.
Yeah, but with not one but two generations are just kind of
it honestly was
jaded with Kiss at this point.
Well, it was Motley Crue playing.
Not even jaded
it wasn't
with
Kiss playing.
It's just jaded with the entire concert experience. But
Motley was not doing great. They were also promoting a new single because, of course, Kiss has a record coming out. They can't be a band without something, and they had a single called "Sex."
Oh, I remember this.
Yes, and I distinctly remember Tommy's drum track skipping midway through the intro.
That happened on this tour too,
and they had to start over. But Kiss's set, honestly, was a lot better than I was expecting. Like I went into it just a little bit more like, ugh. By song 2, I found myself just still kind of smiling and like just I was sucked in. It was loud Kiss songs in my face, and you know what? When it came to stuff like Deuce, God of Thunder, the Gene songs is when my cynicism went away, because it's far enough away I can't tell that it's Eric on drums and Tommy on guitar. I can't see them, so I can ignore them, but I'm seeing Gene and I'm hearing him, and it's loud and in your face, and at those moments it kind of faded away, and then it was, hi people, I'm like, all right, here we go.
Hello,
And
Charlie.
And I remember telling myself, as they were kind of wrapping up the set, like Black Diamond, Encore era, and I remember kind of even telling myself then, I was like, I never got to see Kiss during the farewell tour or any of that stuff.
That was your first time seeing them.
This is my first time seeing them, and I think this is going to be my last time. And I remember it just like during the encore, just kind of telling myself that, just being like, yeah, I think I'm not going to rush to any more of these shows. I'm going to enjoy what I know and this, that, and the other. Then Rock and Roll All Night kicked in, and for the first time all night, outside of maybe Lick It Up, surprisingly, the audience went nutty. And for that half second, because the jaded guy beside me, to add into your conversation later, Russ, the jaded guy beside me went, I've heard this 5 times, I'm getting in my car. so there was a few people that were like leaving, that like the hardcore Kiss fans that were just like, we know what happens here, we're going to beat the traffic. So I kind of have that half moment because I'm looking at my phone. I took the bus, so I'm looking at the phone and I'm like, ooh, there is a bus coming in like 10 minutes, and it's going to take me about 10 minutes to get all the way over there. I probably could make it. But then the little punk rocker in me clicked in, and I went, as I was kind of wiggling my way out, I looked down the way, kind of surveyed the area, and I went, security's not fucking paying attention. I was about to just bolt down those fucking steps and just get in the pit and just be like, I belong here. But I didn't. Instead, I actually did trot down. Like there's kind of a midsection at the amphitheater where kind of all the main rows kind of stop, and then the pit underneath. Yeah. I did run all the way to that though, and like no one said anything. I just hung out there with everyone. So that was fun.
That venue that you're talking about in Charlotte, the amphitheater in Charlotte, it's just the worst place in the world to see a band. It sucks.
And
it's the absolute fucking worst thing. It's just terrible.
And I will say, as the final little
before and after, the
final little nerd point of the night. The reason I was even telling myself, I think I'm going to stay home, and the reason I mentioned it is it was during the encore, Black Diamond and stuff. They were blowing up, doing a lot of the bombs and such. Well, being a very, very, very beginner, novice musical engineer, mixer, all that stuff, I really listened to the nuances live. And I started noticing they were putting the bomb noises through the speakers. Yeah. And because I was because like you were mentioning, it's kind of a bad spot for music. I was kind of right next to one of the big speaker columns where my seat was. And I was hearing distinct bomb noises go through the speakers. And I'm just like,
I'm sure Motley Crue was doing the same shit.
Exactly. And that's what got my ears tuned to it.
Let's
Sorry, I got long on that one. But hey, it was my first Kiss show. You got to talk long on your first Kiss show.
Fair enough. Point taken.
Mine was years later, but we'll probably get to that.
July 31st in Pelham, Alabama. Heavy rain threatens to cancel the show and part of the stage floods. How that happens, I do not know. The situation was fixed before showtime, and the bands played on. September 5th in Clarkston, Michigan, which is Detroit. This show was postponed after one of the tractor trailer trucks overturns en route to the venue. I guess they were able to play the very next night. Anyway, overall, this proved to be a much more successful run than the previous several years. The addition of Motley Crue created kind of
more of a buzz,
a nostalgia package for an audience no longer interested in younger acts, I guess.
For some reason, Motley Crue just kind of went over hard in that time period too.
Well, both bands benefited from this, and they enjoyed, I guess, sort of an increased presence and an increased demand in the wake of this.
I will say, even kind of within the little crusty punk rock circle here in town, a lot more people did start kind of talking about Kiss after the Motley Crue tour ran through. Like, it really did kind of put them
re-energize a little bit.
Like the love and the hate.
Yeah.
They were just in the conversation more again.
Well, it's like, I can say I saw Kiss live now.
A lot of people around town were saying that because the tickets were so cheap.
And they had not played Charlotte in a while, I guess, at that point. And so I guess sort of a new kind of generational thing, a new appreciation probably came up. But that appreciation is of what? Classic Kiss.
Yeah.
You can't see Classic Kiss. What you can see is this. Anyway.
It's like
They got my money, though.
Yeah, that becomes that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. October 9th, 2012, a full year after its projected release, Monster is released. And I guess we'll hit this track by track.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever listened to this album before.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never listened to it all the way through either before
I'm
this.
not sure. I may have.
Like I said, I was checked out.
I was
at
completely
this point.
checked out. So this is essentially virgin listening for me. Even if I had heard it when it came out, I had no memory of any of these songs whatsoever.
Before we actually get into the track by track, a little audio nerdism I like on this one. If this record sounds a little different, like sonically, like guitars and drums.
It does. I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was the way it was recorded, and it's actually a very interesting technology. So there's I think it's called a TASC or TASP machine. I wish I thought it was going to be in the article, but it wasn't. But essentially, it's a machine that works like a tape cleaner. You know how there's like the constant feed on like a VHS tape cleaner? So it works like that. The audio signal hits the electronic tape, records onto that. The computer takes that information immediately off of the tape. So it's like it's reading the transfer of the tape. And then that tape is immediately hitting an erase head after it gets recorded to the computer, and then loops.
So they could say it was recorded to tape.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's immediately transferring to
But
digital.
it has the warmth. It has the sound. It has the mix.
It's not Tascam, is it?
That's a brand.
Yeah, that's a brand. But the word is very similar to that.
Okay.
But honestly, I think it's a very cool technology because if you really break it down, that's just as good as listening to an original master tape on CD because it's the same process. They're taking the original analog tape, transferring it to digital, then putting it on a CD.
I don't know that I'm that strong of a purist for that stuff.
I'm
But
not
I don't
a purist
know.
for it either,
I
but
don't
those
know,
tiny
though.
details in the right hands make a world of difference.
Yeah, but it's
so as a nerd, outside of this record, as a nerd, it excites
Is
me.
Paul Stanley's hands the right hands? There are no right hands but ours.
But no, as a music nerd, the technology makes me really excited, knowing that with
I
the
wonder how
right
many
amount of
people
money.
caught what that reference is.
I don't think Cap and I
Nobody.
did.
No, I was let you roll on that one.
I just went full nerd on that one.
Yeah, he out nerded
Well,
us.
There
have
are
to
no right
explain.
hands but ours.
Now you have to explain. Hey,
It's Kiss meets the Phantom.
Okay.
The talisman falls into the right hands. There are no right hands but ours.
I was
Anyway.
speaking of,
I just
that's
went
the
full nerd.
anniversary of it tonight as we're
did see
recording
that.
As
this.
we record this, is
Yeah.
it October 28th?
That's right.
Today, October 28th.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Little son of a bitch. And I know where I was. Hey, you know what? That would have been 45 years ago tonight.
I think it was 44.
44? 78, yeah.
Yeah.
44. Damn. Wow.
How about that?
It's a fun little kiss.
I'm
nerd
old
as
as fuck.
I was,
I wasn't
nowhere.
I wasn't even a thought.
I wasn't even here, man.
Let's go this now. Let's just go track to track. I think I have these in correct order. Hell or Hallelujah is the opening track. It's
Single.
not great and probably not a great opening track.
Not a great single either.
This reminds me of Gimme More off Lick It Up in its phrasing, but I still find this to be a better song than Gimme More because I think Gimme More is one of the absolute worst songs. But the way it's phrased, can you hear what I'm talking about there?
Yeah, I do.
I like the pre-chorus, but the chorus is just weird.
Chorus sucks.
My overall opinion on
It's
this
just
is
stupid.
There's tiny nuggets throughout this entire song that I like, but I don't like it as a whole. Like honestly, in the verse when they just hold the note and Eric goes to like the floor toms and then they really accentuate the note changes, those moments are cool. but then it immediately fails because I don't like the main riff.
I don't
Like the
either.
main kind of like rock riff they chose, I don't like that riff. So they keep leaning on that. So anytime I hear that riff, I'm not a fan. Except for the solo, because it adds a little bit of like manicness, and it's honestly, come on, objectively, it's not a bad solo from Tommy. Like it actually had a little bit of feel to it.
None of the playing's bad. on it.
I wouldn't. I don't have a thing against Tommy's playing.
No, but I'm saying, but like outside of like maybe just like copying
Oh, yeah,
Ace,
yeah. Yeah, he is.
There are some moments.
You can tell.
Oh, we'll get to that.
very strongly that he's downplaying in a way. Does that make sense? Like he's
Yes.
pulled back.
But on this one, it felt like he kind of stepped forward a little bit more. Like, here's a bit more of like my playing and not a lot of Ace copy.
I felt like this song was probably about 2 minutes too long. I think that hurts
Yeah.
it. But at the end, it's still better than anything.
What about the?
I don't think it's as good as modern day Delilah, but it's better than anything else that's on Sonic Boom.
I agree with that.
What about the odd slide moment where Paul does the Let me tell you how it feels.
There's a lot of those.
There's a
that just,
lot of little things like that. I don't
just
like
piss
any of
me
that.
off.
Yeah, I mean,
I like it.
yeah. I forget what song that's in, but
Back to the Stone Age.
There's a lot of those.
the next song, Wall of Sound.
That's basically Helter Skelter.
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, there's a lot of things that reminded me of other songs on this album, by the way. But this also reminded me of Murder in High Heels, the riff from Animalize.
Yeah.
Or maybe crossed with Love in an Elevator by Aerosmith. I heard that too.
I can hear that. Just like a little like dun dun dun. Yeah,
Well, there's
I hear
the
it now.
bada.
Yeah.
Well, see, that riff is my least favorite part of the song. I like the verse when everyone cuts out and it's kind of like those broken chords. And then they kind of bust back in and then stop again.
Well,
I like the back and forth of that.
I think, personally, on review, I'll go ahead and say this now. This is the best song on the album, in my opinion.
Wall of Sound?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the probably because I keep want to hear Helter Skelter instead of this song whenever I listen to it. But that being said, it's not bad.
It's
I think this is, I'll be the contrarian. I think this is the second worst Gene song on the record.
No, I think this is the best thing he's written. And I think this is the best song Gene Simmons has written since probably Lick It Up. Honestly, I think No was a good song.
See, I don't know. Gene's got a couple of moments on this album, surprisingly to me.
I thought that last one, all the words, usually.
No, he has some shit moments on this album too.
That last album, every one of his songs were like just abysmally bad. I mean, dog fuck bad.
He's got one on this album that's just trash.
Well, but I like this. I think this song works best out of all of them.
I think it's solid. It's
I
not one of
think
my
it's-
favorite Gene songs, but I think it's pretty solid.
The next track is called Freak.
This is like in my bottom three if I had to pick.
It's
Something for this
it's an
album.
awkward attempt at an anthem.
Do you think they're trying to do an anthem?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't work. I mean, I give it an A for effort, but
guys-
an F overall. I mean,
Oh, I don't think this is an anthem.
I think
I
mean
pledge
that,
allegiance
to the
state.
I hate that. Yeah, I mean that's
That's an
absolutely
anthem.
that's what he was trying to do, and it's
End of-
not good. You know, I'm a freak makes you want to feel like, oh yeah, I'm an outsider too. I'm
Yeah,
like you, Paul. I too am. You know,
you 60-year-old
you
fucking
60-year-old millionaire.
Yeah, he was
fucks more hot chicks in a week than I will in my lifetime.
Yeah.
During the interviews I was hearing, Paul's discussing that, and he was like, the lyrics really came from, thinking back as a teenager with my messed up ear and people making fun of me and this, that, and the other. So I did find it interesting, though, that he was kind of acknowledging his oddness in that way. It's like, and it kind of works. It works both ways. I'm a freak because look at my makeup and high heels, but also I'm a freak because I had the deformity.
I never. Does he reference that in the song? Because I didn't catch that. And
not directly.
And my first thought looking at this was like, oh, it's going to be one of these, I'm a sexual freak. And it isn't. But at the same time, this song feels very 90s to me.
It's just a boring song.
It's a boring 90s alternative rock song.
It was, why?
Because it's a boring. It's
as musicians, you'll probably know at least what I'm talking about. I'll try to phrase it for everyone else that may not be. It's the walk down, the doom 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 doom. That was a big thing in the grunge era, and when we were listening, that also shares similarities with Childhood's End off Carnival of Souls.
I wonder how much of this stuff had been hanging around that they just had.
Right.
We could have a whole episode on that. Gene recycled a lot.
Well, yeah, I knew that was par for the course for him. He'd done that from day one, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his process.
But no, boring song to me.
Back to the Stone Age. This is a dumb title.
Dumb title, but the best Gene song, in my opinion.
Well, what's the riff?
I mean, that's also kind of... I heard Helter Skelter again.
It's Kick Out the Jams.
Yeah, they strictly said that they wanted to strike an MC5
really?
vibe with this song. Yes,
well, that's what they got. Is Kick Out the Jams. And
this is heavily
after that. There's no MC5 in this song.
I didn't hear MC5 either.
Other than that, just that one riff, which is Kick Out the Jams.
Even though Thayer and Paul have co-writes on this is definitely very much a Gene and Eric song.
This is awful. I didn't like this song at all. Yeah.
I think it should have been the single.
No, this isn't near as good as Wall of Sound.
All right, here's my arguments. You will confuse this song with Wall of Sound because you know what? They share a lot of similarities. Hold on. Hey, I have the floor, goddammit.
Good.
They both have the moments in the verses where the drums stop and it's just the guitar. In the beginning, and they both share those moments. The big kind of chorusy bits, both of them have it. But this song has a pep to it. The drums are a lot more exciting. Gene's vocals are better. The only thing that's not better about it are the lyrics, because the lyrics are very dumb. They're very caveman, ape, back to the Stone Age. And it's almost kind of embarrassing because you see the old man and Gene coming out. It's almost like the old man shakes fist at cloud song.
Here's the thing, though. Do we believe that more than the I'm Paul Stanley, the sexy 60-year-old fucking...
I believe that more. Because I believe that Paul truly thinks that still about himself. I think he is that vain and that self-centered to where he still thinks he is the sexiest man on the planet, or at least top 5. He may have the humility at this point to give himself top 5. But no, hearing Gene being the old crotchety, I want to go back to the Stone Age. I don't like all this technology.
I hate Facebook.
All of this is, it's all of why I just don't think this is a good song. Wall of Sound doesn't have that. I think Wall of Sound. I just think that Wall of Sound is just a better written song. It's got a better.
The riff in this cracks your ribs, though. I
don't think so. I thought it was a bad imitation of the Kick Out the Jams, and then it falls off at the verse. And
that's why I didn't like Wall of Sound, though. Like we we hate the same songs or have the same reasons for two different songs.
What's next track?
Shout Mercy.
Mediocrity is the dangerous ground that Paul Stanley treads with a fool's confidence.
Damn.
Written like a true poet.
No, I mean, but it's the thing. That's why I was thinking about this. I listened to this song. I was like, it's not bad, but it's not good. It's just meh.
Yeah.
And meh in Kiss is terrible. Lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way.
And see, and
this just sort of meanders. I mean, it's not. It's like it's a song. It serves. It's like, it's okay.
Well, as you mentioned on the last episode, the complacency that the majority of the Kiss Army has for material that comes out. Since I've been listening to a lot of Sonic Boom and now Monster, when I heard Shout Mercy, I went, this is one of the best Paul songs he's written in a while. Because to me, it had better elements to it. I like the cheesy ooh that's in there.
Sympathy for the devil or whatever.
Well, but you don't get it a lot in Kiss material, but it worked. And it felt like just Paul was trying a little bit more. Like you said, it's still mediocrity.
It's still but I could think of things.
In the echelon of this era, I look back and I went, wow, this is Paul actually really trying to create a fun song again.
He has the weakest songs on this album, I think.
Well, I mean, I'll get to that too a little bit in later. But, if I were their producer, the first thing I would do when I sat down, he'd go, okay, I've got this. What's it called? Say Mercy.
Shout Mercy.
Shout Mercy. I would be like, no. Just call it Have Mercy. That would work better. I right off, I'm like, Shout Mercy just sounds... it just doesn't sound right. Who says that? Nobody, you know.
Well, let me hear you shout mercy.
But you know, people
or just shorten it to mercy.
The old saying, "Have mercy." That works for me. I'm like,
come on, baby, have mercy.
You know,
and it even worked with the oohs after that. Yeah,
bands hire us to be your producers.
Yeah, really.
There's just there's just little things. Yeah, I think I could produce a Kiss album. But next track.
What is it?
Long Way Down.
Yeah, this is like my least favorite.
This is, you know what this is?
A failed attempt at a Led Zeppelin song.
That, and you know, but I was listening, and again on the second listen, I'm going, that reminds me of something else, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I sat there and I turned it off and I mulled it over in my head, and finally I realized this is Squeeze, tempted by the fruit of another.
No, you know what I heard? I heard something different. It was Fleetwood Mac. Oh well.
It's probably both.
It's all of those.
I mean, and I thought I'm going. There's no way he's unconsciously lifting this stuff. He knows.
And he's trying his best Robert Plant during the vocals.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but that vocal melody, that's tempted by the fruit of another.
God.
Yeah, but then also think about the chorus. It's a long way down. Yeah, that to me is what it was screaming Led Zeppelin.
The thing is, and it all to me this works, except for it just needs. You need to go ballsier. It needs more swagger.
That's my problem with it. It's
boring.
Too
slick.
It is.
But there's you can hear the potential in this song. It could have been revved up in more of a rocker, and they just sort of it just doesn't. It just takes the long way down. Eat Your Heart Out next.
Yes. Starting with a cool little acapella moment, which if you listen to it with your headphones, you actually do hear them like laughing and goofing off in the background. Yeah. And that's a fun moment.
You know what it is? It's Humble Pie's 30 Days in the Hole.
Yeah, but I kind of like
exactly the fucking the laughing, the whole 9 yards. It's a complete direct. You can hear me in the back going, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not saying the melody of it, but just the way they do it, the approach. It's that opening a cappella with you can hear them kind of in the background talking to each other. It's the same thing. Right. Verse is pretty okay, but of course the chorus sucks because it does.
It's one of the stronger ones on the record, I think.
It's still better than anything on Sonic Boom.
I cringe every time because Gene uses it so much. I cringe every time he talks about someone's backbone slipping. He uses that line so much, and I just cringe. Come on, baby, let your backbone slip.
Yeah, that's some shitty lyrics.
It's like that's just not a good line.
Now, in my opinion,
I'm just a sucker for cowbell.
I think that the solo on this is really good. I think this is Tommy's shining moment on this album.
Yeah, the music's pretty solid on this one.
But this song just isn't good. The Devil Is Me. Yeah, well, this is just cheesy. It's just fucking. The chorus is flat out shitty. The riff is okay. It's decent, but the outro, Jesus Christ!
Hey guys.
I think the riff is too busy.
Yeah, probably.
It's just too busy.
But he's not singing over that part. It's just kind of they're like turnarounds. So.
He's screaming.
The devil is me.
The devil is me.
It's another Led Zeppelin or Helter Skelter.
See, I showed you how badly I remember it.
I thought this was worse than his other God of Thunder song on Sonic Boom.
Well, here's what I wrote in my notes. I was like, I feel like this could have been a pretty strong song, but it's not. I said, opportunity knocks and Kiss are never there to answer. It's like they come up with these ideas, but they're half-baked, and you realize maybe they need to sit down with a guy like Bob Ezrin again to help flesh out these ideas and take them up another level.
Egos would not allow it.
I don't even know well, who knows?
I think Eddie Kramer is the only one that could get the real sound out of him.
But he's not going to help with the co-writing.
No.
And they need
Plus
help
Ace
with the
isn't
co-writing.
in the band, so he wouldn't be interested.
Speaking of Ace not being in the band, the next track, Out of This World.
You mean
a very self-conscious attempt to copy an Ace Frehley song?
No, it is not.
I think so.
You don't hear Mississippi Queen?
I didn't.
No.
Dude, it's Mississippi Queen. It's
maybe,
literally
but I
that
didn't
song.
pick that up. I just
No,
I'll have to hear that again.
seriously,
I'll have to go
listen
back
to
and
it
listen
again.
to it,
The
yeah.
riff is 1-for-1 Mississippi Queen.
Well, after that, it's okay.
But it's so like him. Look at me, I'm a spaceman.
I know that.
You know?
That's what I'm saying.
That's
I mean,
what kills
and
it.
his vocal delivery is like kind of Ace-ish.
I'll take
When-
it out of this.
This is still better than any of the Paul songs, though.
It's still built better than anything on Sonic.
Yeah, it's any of the
Absolutely
Paul
not.
songs,
One,
yeah.
number one,
You know,
number
Paul's
one. When
got the
lightning
worst shit
strikes
there.
is better than this.
It's on par.
Because the lyrics to this completely take it out. Like, I'm not going to sing it, but I'll take you out of this world like a midnight rocket, going up, going down, gonna feel all right. I'll take you out of this world. It's terrible.
It is horrible. I don't disagree. But using those that kind of like those metaphors, I mean, it's very obvious. Again, the Ace copies.
Yeah,
you know,
but Ace was
rock.
not
I know,
that.
I know that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. But that's still that's their approximation. It's a bad approximation.
Yeah,
yes,
but at least when
but
Lightning
it's an
Strikes
approximation.
was a little bit more clever with its lyrics.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Oh, that's fine,
So
but-
the lyrics to this one just completely ruin it. And I don't know. The riff on this,
it sounds like
it just felt awkward. I did not like this at all.
It sounds like a fucking Black and Blue song or whatever the fuck.
Maybe, yeah. No, well, I mean, let's keep it rolling here. All for the love of rock and roll, which is even more a self-conscious copy of themselves. The riff is a throwback to Mr. Speed. The phrasing reminded me of "It's All Right" from Paul's solo album.
Yeah.
See, I heard Mr. Speed with the vocal beat of Hard Luck Woman.
See, I was hearing "It's All Right."
Nothing to Lose.
The lyrics are bad Bon Jovi, and there's no good Bon Jovi.
And this is 100% a Paul song.
Yeah,
Paul
I
is
know.
the only writer on this.
I mean, Eric Singer sings it, but he's clocked in doing the job. So, I mean,
Yeah.
But this is the sonic equivalent of if this is a job, this is the sonic equivalent of septic work. Because this song fucking sucks. Eric Singer, man, that guy. I'm like, when he does shit like this, I give him a side eye. I don't know him, obviously. I wouldn't, but I would be like, dude, what the fuck? Is there not a point where you go, no, I'm not doing that. Come on, cut it out. And apparently the answer to that is no, he'll do that. He's like, oh yeah, what are you paying me? Okay. I could not in good conscience sit there and go, I'm going to
Eric
put my
Singer
heart
does
on
not have a
this.
musical conscience anymore.
Yeah,
Russ,
clearly.
You're meaning to tell me you've been in KISS for how many years?
There's a point where I'm going to be like,
no. And Paul Stanley comes
written you
up
a
to you
song.
and says, "Hey, Russ."
Eric, I've written you a song.
No, hey, Russ.
Hey, Russ, I've written you a song.
Yeah.
It's called All for the Love of Rock and Roll. It's a little bit like Mr. Speed.
And we're going to pay you.
And we're going to pay you.
So get in the vocal booth and sing your song on a KISS song.
And then I'd be like, halfway through, I would be like, oh, for the love of what the fuck are you making me do? Dude, no, I have a job, okay? And there are nights, last night being one of them, where there was a moment where I was like, I could just shut down and lock up and go the fuck home. And there are many nights where I'm very tempted to do that. Now, I need my job, Eric Singer doesn't need this KISS job. So, obviously, my point, I guess, is that somewhere he sees this as either good or he's got no integrity.
No, man, he's just part of the team, man.
Take Me Down Below. And
fuck this song.
Yeah, that's what I got. This is fucking stupid. I mean, she said we better move.
Hold up before you go there, because that is my biggest sticking point with the song. But I want folks to remember last episode when I said KISS writes about what they know. Russ, what did they do a year ago for the first time? they did the Kiss cruises.
Oh
All
my
of a
God.
sudden, this song is full of ship puns. You can't tell. You can't tell me. Hold on. You can't tell me they
Calm
didn't
down.
write.
Calm
I'm
down.
calm. I am calm. I am calm. You can't tell me that they didn't write this with the cruisers in mind, going, "Oh, this is going to be a party song for these guys."
Maybe, but this remember this was recorded before they.
But they knew they were doing the cruises.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, possibly. I'm just okay. The line is, she said, "We better move. We better move it because I'm already wet." I'm just this kind of shit. It doesn't matter. Never mind.
Take you on a cruise you'll never forget.
It's fucking stupid. It's just fucking stupid.
Then there's the G one where it's like, I told her I had a submarine. She says, I think I know what you mean, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I just want to be like,
I
come
asked
on.
the hostess for my flying test.
That's so yeah, it's
You
dumb.
know, I mean, even if they were sitting here right now, I'd be like, come on, y'all. Shut the fuck up. Stop
you
it.
60-year-old
Fucking stop it. Just
And
stop.
And it's a shame because I think musically this is a cool song.
Musically, this whole album's kind of solid,
Well,
but the songs are fucking dumb.
Like, as much hate as we were given All for the Love of Rock and Roll, because it's a Mr. Speed ripoff, riff-wise,
No.
musically, it sounds a little bit more tolerable. It's musically a fun song. Same thing with this one, how a lot of it's on the floor toms, and then, like, the chorus is really big and open.
They do try a little bit harder, but
The dynamics
it's
are cool.
like, if I want to listen to Mr. Speed, I'm going to fucking listen to Mr. Speed, you know? It's like, I don't want a pale imitation of the original thing.
You don't want to listen to the tape to computer to CD
Yeah.
to fucking
No. Well, hey,
version of that.
and winding it up, the song "Last Chance," the chorus says, "This is the last chance to get it right," and they still get it wrong.
Do your dance on the edge of a knife.
It's just bad. I mean, this is still a giant improvement over Sonic Boom.
Absolutely, and that was going to be my main takeaway. Is as much as hell as we've been given this, especially for the last bit of this record, felt like we were a little nicer at the start, and then it just got bad.
The album does get progressively worse.
But at the same time, I still think this is leaps and bounds over Sonic Boom.
I agree. Like, Sonic Boom was tough, but
Yeah.
this was not nearly. I listened to this like 3 times.
There's nothing particularly memorable here that makes me want to give it a second listen.
No.
But there's also nothing that was so offensively bad you just go, what the fuck?
No, it's funny, we all came with a different takeaway. I said my favorite track was Wall of Sound. Yours, Alex, was?
Musically, Back to the Stone Age.
But, I mean, you got to pick. That would be it then.
I guess stupid lyrics and all.
I mean, they all
still
got stupid lyrics.
Yeah, but
Wall of Sound
honestly,
seemed to have the least stupid lyrics too. I thought, but
the riff kills me.
I don't want to pick the same song that Alex did, so I have to go with.
Why not?
Because
You
I got a
can do
list.
it.
I got a top 3. Number 2 is "Eat Your Heart Out."
Yeah, I'd say that'd be that number 2 as well.
It's the rat. I'm a sucker for humble pie sounding fucking cowbell rock.
Now, it is important to note as well, there was a bonus track to this album. There was a song called Right Here, Right Now. Did we not listen to that?
I missed that.
That's on YouTube. You're not missing a lot. It's a bonus track for a reason. The intro and the chorus, they have the typical Kiss thing of they fail at the chorus. The verses are very uninspired vocally and lyrically, but the riff tries. Like, it's very different. Like, it's a lot choppier and kind of classic Paul, where he's kind of has like his broken chords and the little walks to
Yeah.
It kind of does that a little bit more, but outside of that, it's still not a great song at all.
Well, what did we say bookmark earlier?
When I was discussing at the Motley Crue Kiss show, I was
how the
standing next to
fan
that Kiss
reaction.
fan where he
Okay.
was like just waiting for Motley Crue to get off the stage.
Okay, that plays into what listening to this record. I had an epiphany that it's mediocre, meaningless music like this that has killed rock and roll, because there's nothing exciting or interesting or I can't imagine any 15-year-old putting this on and relating to it in the same way a 15-year-old related to Rock and Roll Over in 1976.
No.
I can't, because it doesn't have 1/10 of the spark or drive, or it sounds labored, and it sounds it's like they've brought nothing to the table except their own smug sense of self-indulgence. And if there's one thing rock and roll never does well, it's self-indulgence. And I think Rick Wakeman taught us that, or maybe Emerson, Lake and Palmer. But you listen to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, not me.
Now, I will ask, though, do you not think that they were being self-indulgent in the Love Gun Dynasty era?
I think there's a difference between self-indulgence and self-determination. I think they knew who they were and what they were doing, and I knew they felt energized and they felt they felt productive and creative. Whereas this, like I said, it's labored.
They're at a point now where
they've got it in them and they can't wait. It felt like, I've got something in me. I got to get it out, which is
Ace
great
and
rock and
Peter
roll.
Or not, we got to do it.
Well, I'm saying even Ace and Peter wrote great stuff that,
that's why I picked the Love Gun Dynasty era, because that's when
that was when it was tailing off.
Well, that's why I mentioned it.
But I still think even a song like Magic Touch, I think he was kind of starting to see himself more as a quote unquote songwriter. And it still had, he still felt creative and energized and whereas a lot of the stuff just is like, okay, I need to start putting together something.
What makes a Kiss song?
And to a point, go ahead.
I was going to say, my point I was going to make was that, oh, fuck, I had it and then I lost it. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to me, one thing I can say that's a plus for this record, why it works better than Sonic Boom, is they're not trying to ape themselves from 20 years prior. They were writing new songs without trying to sound like Kiss, and so the closest that comes for me, of course, was the Wall of Sound song. But when you can see the parts where it falls off when they start copying, like when they bring in the Humble Pie or when you said Mountain or whatever, these are the obvious cops of other riffs. You're finding that you're void of ideas.
Yeah.
So it's not the same thing.
Yeah, that was basically what my point was going to be, is that you're at a point now in your career where this is literally the best you can do.
And if you can't do better, it's almost like, I don't know. And the one thing I've talked about in the past is like, say what you want about Kiss's commercialization, at least to a point, they always felt like it had to be backed up with a certain quality to it. It had to have a certain value. It's like, we're not just putting out something just to have it out. There's a demand for this, and we're going to make sure that it's something that has that sustains and feeds that demand in a way that satisfies the demand.
Oh, Paul loves using the cake analogy. He's like, if you serve a cake that's, really it's decorated up nice, that's all well and fine, but when you slice into it, what does it taste like?
Well, this cake is it's better than the Sonic Boom cake, but it's not that great.
Not the best cake I ever had.
Mention before we finish this out.
At least it's not a Walmart cake. Oh.
Yeah.
Mention the album cover, because the album cover for this was fairly interesting because it had the 3D album cover, which was not the same as the 3D thing they tried to do with Psycho Circus. This worked a lot better.
Yes, it worked a lot better because new technology, and it also worked a lot better because a lot of people kind of deciphered this and figured it out back when it happened. It's just not been part of the conversation again since, because it's primarily among us visual nerds. But this entire album cover is Photoshop CGI computer generated, except for the faces. They added the faces in the photo. Those are real photos of their faces touched up. And they posed like that. But all of the costuming was done so last minute that photo shoot was done in the Sonic Boom costumes. And if you notice, the Sonic Boom costumes and the Monster costumes are not too dissimilar. So it was very easy to paint on all of the new graphics, move arms where they need to be, all of that stuff, which is the reason why the 3D works really well. They were working with brand new assets and creating them in a digital space. So all of a sudden, the cool 3D effect of like Paul reaching his hand out actually worked because they could shade in and color and create the whole damn thing.
I still think it's a fairly unremarkable cover for a band that, well, if they're going to resume the makeup era, they need to resume iconic covers, but they failed miserably on.
Oh yeah, no, this is a really bad cover, and
that Monster logo looks like Monster Energy drink.
Yeah, so I'm very glad you mentioned that. Because of that, there are two versions of the album cover. that were printed. One version has a line going through the O in the monster, which is very similar to the energy drink logo.
Did they get sued or something? Or
No
were they
one
threatened?
saw any official document, but the quote-unquote word on the street is that they did receive a letter. And then within a couple weeks, there was a new version of the logo without the line through the O.
Well,
Somebody
either
got
way,
it was just enough.
It still looks the same.
It still looks exactly the same. And this also...
Doc got an email and went, oh, God damn it.
Do you have any notes in there about the really big promotional item they did around this time? So
the M&Ms?
No, that was Sonic Boom.
Oh, I keep going back to the M&Ms.
Was it Dr. Pepper?
No, much bigger than that, both literally and physically. Around the time that they released the Hell or Hallelujah single, they also released the Kiss Monster book.
Oh, that's
Where
right.
this is-
I forgot about
where
that.
this
I
is
thought
not-
that was gonna-
Where this is not just a coffee table book, it is a coffee table.
That doesn't.
Oh my
that wasn't a good
God,
idea.
fuck
That wasn't a big promotional thing. I barely
No,
got any notice because
honestly,
it was so
I
That's
stupid.
the most
saw a lot of
cartoonish
people-
thing I've ever heard of.
I saw a lot of people talking about it when it happened. Like it did the whole Kiss casket thing.
I
It got
don't-
people talking.
I don't remember it being that get
Well, you were
generated.
also tuned out,
but I
Russ.
remember that coming out. But I don't remember it being like. I mean, what I
That's
heard
why I'm
was
saying
largely
you were
negative.
tuned out.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
I was seeing all of it. No, there was
Maybe
a lot of people talking about
Why
it.
would we do this? Because fuck you. That's why. I'm Gene Simmons of Kiss.
I wonder who bought one of those.
So
I wonder how many of those they actually sold.
yes, I do have rough memory statistics. Less than 300.
Yeah, I was going to say there can't be many.
Because they hand numbered each one. And of course, all the nerds will convene in Facebook groups or message boards and talk about what number do you have. They did it with the Gene Simmons vault. They did it with the book. They do it with all that stuff. So they were able to figure out like someone that had like the highest number was like 100 and something that they could find. And that and then eventually, this is working off memory. I'm sure it's archived in the Kiss FAQ boards. Someone actually mentioned that they worked at the book factory that had the pages. They would only assemble them when they were purchased.
They're made to order. I'm sure.
So each number is a real number. It's
Right.
not like they're kind of jumping around. They literally hand number each one.
number, yeah.
And they said they had pallets
Yeah,
of
I'm sure.
pages that have
Who's gonna
never
buy
been
it?
assembled.
It's so stupid. It was a stupid idea. Yeah. Well, anyway, they
If it
finally.
was cheaper, it would have been cool to like get it and like rip out each page and like create some Kiss
yeah, but it
wallpaper.
wasn't it was all the current band though. The current lineup. There's nothing classic.
There was some of the classic, very little, but there was some classic.
I don't want it.
But Russ, it's a coffee table book
But
table.
Russ, it's like
Coffee
over
table.
$5,000. You sure you didn't want it,
I'm
or
sure.
something like that? It was a
I'm
couple
sure.
grand
I
at
know
least.
it's
It was expensive as fuck.
You gotta wait on the vault that's coming out in a couple of years.
Speaking of
right.
okay. Well, tour starts November 7th in Buenos Aires, Argentina, which is funny because in 1982 they were threatened to be murdered if they played there.
And which
Continues-
actually that they immediately followed Kiss Cruise 2.
What's that? Okay, yeah. Well, they have a total of 56 shows, only 8 of which are in the U.S. Of those 8, only 6, or of those 8, 6 are in secondary markets. So they played, I know when they played in the Carolinas, they played in Simpsonville, South Carolina.
Yep, the
Which
Charter
is-
Amphitheater.
which is Greenville, Spartanburg, I think.
Yeah, it was like Greenville area, but like small town outside of Greenville.
Well, it's because
Well, that's
they
where
already
the
shot.
amphitheater is there, though.
Okay.
Well, see, it's because exactly what you're saying. They had really weird timing. It's like as soon as the Motley Crue tour finished, they hopped on a boat, jumped off the boat, and now here's Monster. So it's like now they've got to
Still,
tour
they
the
could've-
record.
Yeah, but it seems. I mean, 8 shows in the United States. They don't plan that poorly. I think there's still.
Well, because
at
they
this
just did
point,
the
we
tour.
talk about the
tour.
Right. Well, no, this is the next summer. This is the summer after. I mean, well,
Not really.
Yeah, it's a couple of months later.
It's a
I don't
couple
know when-
months.
I can't-
As soon as they hop
I
off
can't
that
say-
tour.
Well, they played in the U.S. in the summer. I know that was in the summer.
But that was the tour.
No, the tour. No, I'm saying when they did like the Simpsonville show, that was in 2012.
Oh, July.
So it was the year later. Anyway, they play at 4 festivals in major festivals. 1 in Chile, 3 in Europe, including Hellfest in France.
Yes.
On June 22nd. The set list features, surprisingly, 3 songs off the 2 recent albums. They play Hell or Hallelujah and Out of This World from Monster and Say Yeah from Sonic Boom. They dropped Modern Day Delilah. That seems like it would be a better choice, but
Now,
I wasn't,
I did see a live clip of Say Yeah, and it wasn't that enthusiastic.
I'm like, eh.
Now, I will say the earlier shows also included, it had Hell or Hallelujah, Wall of Sound,
They play Wall of Sound at early shows?
Out of This World, and so they had more the earlier on.
Yeah,
As
they
the
just
tour
dropped
went
them out.
on, they kept dropping them.
Well, I mean,
and I even know they played, what's the Gene one that was real slow? Near the end, his God of Thunder song.
Oh, Devil Is Me.
They tried that at one show, and they never played it again.
Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit about New Kiss, like
Well,
what
that's-
Russ's point was
I mean,
earlier.
they don't. The most notable thing about this tour is the new stage, which is arguably the coolest stage they ever had, which is the Spider stage,
Yes.
which I guess did not always work as they had hoped.
This entire tour started with great intentions. A lot of songs from the new record, an awesome stage where the 3 members up front were brought down from the ceiling, a la the farewell tour. But
Well,
this time,
they've come down from the top every tour since.
not Sonic Boom.
No, not Sonic
they
Boom.
came over the drum
That's
kit.
right. That's right.
Yeah, so with this one, they're coming down from the lighting truss again.
Right.
But this time, instead of it just being a platform, the platform is connected by a bunch of those wire steel beams in the shape of spider legs. And within the legs, kind of on the inside, are different moving spotlights. So the concept being, when they finish dropping the members on the front of the stage, when it kind of like crouches down like a spider, it can come back up and interact during songs. The
It's like-
legs
it's
can
like-
kind of move.
It's an
the
interactive light rig
That's
that looks
cool.
like a spider.
Yeah.
Sort of similar, a more modernized, more complex version of the Bomber light rig that Motorhead had. So it's the same kind of concept as it's interactive. I think it's a very, very impressive. I mean, I saw that, was like, I would almost pay money to go watch that now, but I
But
didn't.
no, unfortunately, I think within like 3 or 4 shows, like there's like video footage of like the leg kind of like spazzing out, where you see it like trying to move up, and it's just kind of wiggling and sitting there.
So pretty soon, all they did was use it as an elevator, drop them down, it goes right back up again.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's all. That's the only thing they kept on it.
Damn.
So yeah, starting the tour with a really cool stage and a bunch of songs, and then ending it with a half stage and 1 song probably.
That's unfortunate, because that was such a cool concept.
It
Whoever
really
designed
was.
that was really
Who
clever.
do you think designed it?
I don't know.
Paul.
I mean, did he though? I mean,
Somebody
somebody
go
had
to
to,
like different companies for this kind of thing. 'Cause I
No,
know they got in
no.
trouble for stealing Motley Crue's guy for their stage show recently.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
No, at least this one specifically, I can say there's proof that Paul designed this
Well,
one.
it's a good idea. I know he designed like the Dynasty stage. I'm sure he had a sizable hand in it. No
Well,
doubt.
he had the
But,
idea
I
for
mean,
the spider,
okay,
rather.
I
So
wouldn't know.
he may have not designed all of like the placement of stuff, but Gene, he was doing one of the Kiss conventions during that time because he was pumping one of his new lines of basses, and someone was asking about the Monster album and what the tour was going to look like, and he goes, actually, he picked some random person in the audience. He's like, "You come here," and he kind of waves them over. He goes, I want you to look at this phone. He goes, this is a sketch from Paul Stanley. I want you to tell me what you see. And he's like, looks like a spider with lights on it. He's like, yes. He goes, this is going to be, and he's like kind of holding up his phone. So apparently Paul drew out like this fast little sketch of like what the lighting rig would look
that's
like.
Fine. I'm just, either way.
I just think it's cool.
Yeah.
Was it in inches or feet?
So we're going to do it like this.
All the
It's gonna be
same,
Spider.
this is where it seemed like it was in this tour where his vocal problems become very pronounced.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see, one thing that I've learned doing the show is just it's been depressing to see. You know, it's always sad to see your heroes fall from grace, and you know But what's so odd to me, and we're going to see this start growing a little bit. It's like they're doing this, but there's an audience that so willingly accepts this poorly aged, broke down second tier version of Kiss. Oh, they're just as popular as they've ever been. That doesn't mean shit to me. They're not as good. Well, they're still drawing, you know, they fill out stadiums, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but look what also fills the top 40 radio.
I
You
know.
can't tell me that the masses at large have that much standards. Sorry, folks, but...
They are not 1/10 as good as they were in their prime. Now, most bands aren't that have aged to this point, but some bands, they didn't set the bar quite as high. But, you know, there seems to be a point where they have to recognize they're getting, you know, they're overreaching. You know, and with Paul's voice being so bad, and it's not, you know, it's not. I'm not insulting or putting the guy down.
It's just a
it's
fact.
It's just a fact. You know,
You're
it's
not
like
sitting here
there's a
going,
point
Paul
where-
sucks.
No,
You're just
it's
saying
like he
his
was once
voice is
a great
bad.
singer, and it's more pronounced that it's so bad because he had once been so good.
And had said
but
things
they
about
lack-
bands that, you know, keep going at too long at the party. Like they would make comments about that kind of thing.
They themselves would make comments, and they have stayed way too long because they lack any of that kind of passion or energy,
integrity,
the sheer stamina of the original lineup, you know. And I think stamina is the right word, and I don't buy into that play better argument either. That doesn't mean shit to me. It doesn't mean shit to rock and roll. It just, you know, because rock and roll is all about the sweat and vigor and the stamina and the endurance, you know. And these bands don't have it. Young bands don't have it. It's not the same thing. And you know, this is just a weak-kneed, watered-down shell of what once was, in my opinion. It just, I don't think it's even in my opinion. I think it's obvious. That is the fact of what it is.
I do find it funny, though, Russ, that you and for both of us, our first Kiss shows were some of the lowest points in their career.
But you've seen enough probably since to recognize, okay, what I saw really was,
But they're going to continue to be successful somehow.
That was capital K, lowercase
My friend
ISS.
Andy and I went to go see Van Halen at their first reunion show.
Oh, I was so excited about this.
The very first one was in Charlotte, and tickets sort of fell into our hands that day, and we went to go see it. And you know, I had thought of Kiss, the reunion of Kiss in 1996, where they came in and tried and did a pretty good job at recapturing the vibe of 1977. You know, this is Kiss. This is what it was, and here we are again, and we're doing it the way you want to see it, the way it should be.
Give us your money.
Well, no, but they did.
Yeah, I know.
Give us your money. Yeah, hell yeah, I'll give you my money. I want to see it. That's, again, the quality part. When I went to see Van Halen, I was thinking, well, Van Halen is the other defining arena rock band. And 1984 is a watershed moment in arena rock staging. That
Absolutely.
was a very impressive show.
And I'm sure you got...
And what I got with Van Halen was the Van Halen Las Vegas Light review
of 2000 and whatever.
It was bad. I mean, it was just bad. David Lee Roth comes out in a Matador suit, looks like Steve Martin from the Three Amigos.
This. I remember these photos.
It's definitely not 1984.
It's
David Lee
not.
Roth
They don't
by
even try.
miles.
And the point was we were leaving. Some woman, you know, we live in North Carolina, so it's like, you know, we hear, well, that was a rock and roll show. And Andy, who was like at this point 25 maybe, turns and looks at this woman and goes, and Andy had seen a bunch of good shows at this point, right? And he goes, if you thought that was a good rock and roll show, you obviously have never been to a good rock and roll show.
I can see
told this
Andy
lady
doing
right in
that
her
too.
face, and they just looked at him like he'd grown a second head. We were just like, man, that was some dog shit. We wasted $80 and 2 hours of our life watching that bullshit.
That's honestly
It was
how I felt at the end of the Motley set.
And I say that, and I will say that to any one of my friends that went to that show and said that was a good show. you obviously have missed out on some really good rock and roll shows. And then you see this, and it's the same thing. But I can't compare Kiss to Van Halen, or like I said, and nor should I. Nor should I compare Kiss to Aerosmith or any other band. Because Kiss exists, and I've said this 1,000 times on this show, it exists in its own self-contained context. You know, here they've come the closest they've ever been with this staging. Is finally, okay, they've got it kind of right, even if they've got 2 replacement members. But they've reached a point now where they just physically can't do it anymore.
Again, throughout this whole cycle, you see them trying harder, a better stage show, arguably better looking costumes than the Sonic Boom costumes, and even slightly better songwriting. It really felt like they gave it that one last final okay look. We're gonna give it our all. We're gonna do the new costumes. We're a new stage, new record, and let's see what happens.
But if you put the pedal to the floor and you've got no gas in the tank, you're not going to get very far. And that's the reality of what Kiss has become. But knowing where their attendance figures are headed, I'm clearly in a minority opinion. As they're clearly not backstepping here, is what we're saying.
Yeah, no, that arguably the shows have been doing really good. They've been playing to some massive sized crowds.
Well, they are now, but not in this era. In this era, they're kind of they're crawling back up to a point, but they're not doing as well as they will do here coming into the future as they proceed into the next decade of the 21st century. But
Monster did not do well.
Yeah, overall, yeah. It did like all Kiss albums. It debuted strong at number 3. 2. I thought it was number 3.
Paul claims number 2.
Well, I think
either way,
that's why I threw the little asterisk.
It fell faster than Sonic Boom. It was off. It was completely off the charts in 6 weeks.
Again, nobody cares.
No one cares. But again, we'll see where this is headed as they go into the next decade of the 21st century, and we will talk about that, including probably the greatest accolade of their career, on the next episode of No Time to Turn, and hopefully you'll join us then. So for Cap and for Alex, I'm Russ, and we'll see you next time on No Time to Turn.
Thank you for listening. Please insert another coin by supporting the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/somethinggoodnetwork.